Greetings, first grade readers and thinkers. It's me, Mr. B. My favorite time of the day is when we can share some really cool books. And today we are going to read a little bit of fiction and a little bit of nonfiction. When we read fiction, which we'll start out with first, we're going to take a look at how we can, how authors and readers can explore the same basic story from a different point of view. So last week we read the story of the Three Little Pigs. In that story, the main characters and kind of the good guys, the good characters, the good pigs were the Three Little Pigs, especially the third pig. And the bad guy or the bad character, of course, was the wolf. But we just heard that story from the point of view of the pigs, and especially the third pig. So the thing that you learn as you get older is that there's always more than one side to any story. And it is appropriate to try to hear both sides of any story before you decide what you think about the story. So today we're going to explore that, and we're going to do this again all week long. We'll be looking at different sides of that story of the Three Little Pigs. Today we're going to read a book called The True Story of the Three Little Pigs by A. Wolf. So the author is the wolf telling his side of the story. Now, my neighbor is mowing the lawn. I don't know if you can hear that lawnmower in the background, so I will try to keep my voice up so you can hear and enjoy. Now, as we're reading, not only are we going to compare this story to the Three Little Pigs, but also want to think about who are the characters, what is the setting, what's the problem in the story, and how does the problem get solved? And I'm thinking that we'll probably read half of the story today and half tomorrow, just so this video doesn't become too long. All right, so here we go. The True Story of the Three Little Pigs. Everybody knows the story of the Three Little Pigs, right? Or at least they think they do. But I'll let you in on a little secret. Nobody knows the real story because nobody has ever heard my side of the story. Remember, this is the wolf talking. I am the wolf, Alexander T. Wolf. You can call me Al. I don't know how this whole big bad wolf thing got started, but it's all wrong. Maybe it's because of our diet. Hey, it's not my fault that wolves eat cute little animals like bunnies and sheep and pigs. That's just the way we are. If cheeseburgers were cute, folks would probably think you were big and bad too. That's true, because I love cheeseburgers. But like I was saying, this whole big bad wolf thing is all wrong. The real story, it's about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. This is the real story. Way back in Once Upon a Time, I was making a birthday cake for my dear old granny. I had a terrible sneezing cold, and I ran out of sugar. Here's a picture of Alexander T. Wolf trying to make a cake, and there's a picture. Who do you think that is? Granny? So I walked down the street to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar. Now, just so happens this neighbor was a pig, and he wasn't too bright either. He had built his whole house out of straw. Can you believe that? I mean, Who in his right mind would build a house out of straw? So, of course, the minute I knocked on the door, it fell right in. I didn't just want to knock in or walk into somebody else's house, so I called, "Little pig, little pig, are you in?" There was no answer. I was just about to go home without the cup of sugar from my dear old granny's cupcake. Birthday cake, I mean. Cupcake would have been nice too, but it was a birthday cake. That's when my nose started to itch. I felt a sneeze coming on. Well, I huffed and I snuffed and I sneezed a great big sneeze. And wouldn't you know it, that whole darn straw house fell down, and right in the middle of that pile of straw was the first little pig, dead as a doornail. He had been home the whole time. Well, it seemed like a shame to leave a perfectly good ham dinner lying there in the straw, so I ate it up. Think of it as a big old cheeseburger just lying there. Well, after that I was feeling a little better, but I still didn't have my cup of sugar, so I went to the next neighbor's house. This neighbor just happened to be the first little pig's brother. He was a little smarter, but not much. He had built his house out of sticks. I rang the doorbell on the stick house. Nobody answered. I called, "Mr. Pig, Mr. Pig, are you in?" He yelled back, "Go away, Wolf! You can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin chin." What? See the hairs on his chinny chin chin? I had just grabbed the doorknob when I felt another sneeze coming on. I huffed and I snuffed. I tried to cover my mouth, but I sneezed a great sneeze. And you're not going to believe it, but this guy's house fell down on him just like his brother's. When the dust cleared, there was the second little pig, dead as a doornail. Wolf's honor. Now, you know that food will spoil if you just leave it out in the open. So I did the only thing there was to do. I had dinner again. Think of it as a second helping. I was getting awfully full, but my cold, well, it was feeling a little bit better. However, I still didn't have that cup of sugar for my dear old granny's cake. So I went to the next house. This guy was the first and second little pig's brother. He must have been the brains of the family. He had built his house out of bricks. So, I'm thinking you probably notice some ways that this story is the same as the first story of the three little pigs, and some ways that it's different. In this story, the wolf is trying to persuade us that he is the good guy, or the good wolf, and that the problem makers are the pigs. So if we think about the story elements, the characters now are the wolf so far and the first two pigs. And I guess you could say the granny in the background. But the good character is the wolf. He's just trying to make a cake for his granny, and the pigs have been kind of rude. They haven't been willing to share just a cup of sugar. That's what you do for neighbors. And it's not the wolf's fault that he's got a cold. So we'll see if the wolf solves his problem tomorrow. His problem is he's trying to get a cup of sugar, right, for his granny's cake. So we're going to continue this tomorrow, but I think it's really interesting how you can tell the same story from a different point of view. And after we read tomorrow, you can decide who really is the good character and who are the not so good characters. So I'm going to put that right there to pause. And by the way, if you think about cause and effect, in this story, the fact that the wolf had a cold was the cause of him blowing the house down, because he sneezed twice. And I guess you could also say, like in the first story, the fact that the pigs were not very smart, they built houses that weren't very strong, that was also a cause of the wolf being able to blow their house down. All right. So now we're going to switch again. We're going to resume reading the book we started on Friday. Follow me around the United Kingdom. We're going to look for some interesting details and things that we can learn about the UK, the United Kingdom. But I recall that we didn't really talk much about cause and effect relationships. So let's just take a look and see if there are any cause and effect relationships that came up in the first few pages. So it did say that the temperatures are seldom extremely hot or cold, and most places get a lot of rain. So we know that that's because, like Ireland, the United Kingdom is an island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, surrounded by water. So the ocean has the effect of causing the weather to not be too hot, not be too cold, and to be pretty rainy. So that's one cause and effect relationship we learned about. I'm just trying to see if there are any other cause and effect relationships. Oh, we talked about how one of the favorite types of food is Indian food. And the reason that Indian food became popular in the UK is because the UK, about 150 years ago, was the most powerful country in the world, and they actually had taken over a lot of countries, including India. They were ruling India just like they used to rule North America. And because they ruled India, many people from India came to the UK, and they brought their food. So the fact that the UK was ruling India had the effect of Indian food coming and becoming part of the culture of the UK. So that was a good cause and effect. All right, so today we're going to read some more. First, we're going to read about Off to School, about schools in the UK. It says, in the UK, most kids go to school from ages 5 to 18, kind of like in the United States. Some students finish at age 16 and go to a trade school. That's where they learn how to do things like become a builder or an electrician or a carpenter, like my son. There they study for a specific job. Others stay in school and prepare for college. We call each grade a year. So we start out at year 1. So for them, kindergarten is year 1. Then go to year 2. First grade would be year 2. And so on. It says our year 1 would be called kindergarten in the United States. Year 2 here is your first grade. I forgot about that. Some students live at boarding schools. Most of these schools are public, quote unquote public. What we call public schools are the opposite of public schools in the United States. Here at public schools, Students pay a fee to attend a public school, but the school is open to everyone, no matter where they live. We also sometimes call them independent schools. So Holy Apostles is kind of like what would be a public school in the United Kingdom. One of the first things we learn in school is how to read and write in English. English is our official language in the United Kingdom, just like in the United States. We use the Roman alphabet with its 26 letters, just like you do in the United States. However, some of the words we use are spelled differently here. Others are completely different words. Some areas of the UK have their own languages too. In Wales, many people learn Welsh. Scottish Gaelic, spoken in Scotland, and Irish Gaelic in Northern Ireland. People in Cornwall in southern England may learn Cornish. A lot of people in Wisconsin, including my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents, came from Cornwall in England, and they came to Wisconsin to become miners. There's a lot of people like that. And so, in fact, there's a lot of places in Wisconsin that have what are called Cornish pasty or pasties, which are pies with meat in them that come from Cornwall, England. So here is a chart comparing words from the English words in the United States and English words in the United Kingdom. So in the United Kingdom, well, in the United States, we call these delicious treats, what we call cookies, they call biscuits. In the United States, we call big vehicles that carry stuff on the road, we call them trucks. In the UK, they call those lorries. In the United States, we call a restroom, we call it the bathroom. They call it the loo. In the winter, we wear a sweater. What we call a sweater, they call it a jumper. We wear sneakers or gym shoes. They call those trainers. What we call potato chips, that's what they call crisps. What we call an elevator, their word for an elevator is a lift. We have sausages. They call sausages bangers. We have a TV. What we call a TV, they call it a telly. So it's interesting, the differences in language. All right. So touring the United Kingdom. So these are some of the things you'll see someday when you go to the UK. So it starts out London, the capital city. Welcome to my city, London. It is the capital of the United Kingdom. It is also the capital of England. London sits on the winding River Thames. When you visit, you'll want to go first to Buckingham Palace. That's one of the Queen's homes. Make sure you don't miss the changing of the guard ceremony out front. Then head over to Big Ben. It's the old giant loud bell that rings in the most famous clock in the world. On your way there, you can stop at Westminster Abbey. Many kings, queens, and famous people are buried in this old church. A short walk away is the new landmark, the London Eye. It's a big Ferris wheel. It's a giant Ferris wheel. Hop on and get a bird's eye view of my city. And I told you on Friday, just to remind you, that London is also where Peter Pan, that's where Peter Pan starts out and where it ends. That's where the children live when they're not in Never Never Land. It's also where Mary Poppins takes place. And there's lots of other famous stories, including Harry Potter, that starts out in London. Catch a ride on the tube, that's what they call the subway in London, and speed all over the city. The tube is our underground railway or subway. It was the first subway ever built in the world. Make sure you stop at Hyde Park. If it's a sunny day, you can boat or swim in the lake or ride horses. You can also take a stroll through Kensington Gardens, which is connected to the park. If you like a mystery, head on over to the Sherlock Holmes Museum to learn about our most popular detective or investigator. Another must-see spot is the Tower of London. It was once a home for royalty and a famous prison. Today, it houses the crown jewels, the gems that have been worn by our kings and queens. The place is filled with ravens. These black birds can be a bit spooky. Legend has it that if these ravens leave the Tower of London, then the entire kingdom will fall. So be nice to them. And if you've ever heard the song, London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down, London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady. That song is about the Tower of London. So here, really great picture of the Royal Guard changing the guard at Buckingham Palace. There's Big Ben, Westminster, and the government in the United Kingdom. That's where that's kind of like the British equivalent of our Capitol building is there, Westminster. And then here is Hyde Park with the boats and the beautiful lake. And then there's a Tower Guard, the Tower of London with the ravens. All right, so I'm gonna pause here. Tomorrow we'll read some more about other places in the UK, including Edinburgh in Scotland. We'll go to Wales. We'll learn about some other famous places and the history of the UK. So we talked a little bit about some cause and effect relationships. I hope you got some details in your brain. Thank you for reading with me today. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will talk to you again soon. In England, the way they say goodbye, they say cheers. So I'll say to you, cheers. Sometimes they say cheerio. Cheers or cheerio.